Thank you for tuning in to Think Tech Friday. I'm your host, Attila Saras. Here at Think Tech, we do something called the Next Big Thing. Next Big Thing is where we give small local companies and companies all around the world a little bit of an opportunity to show what they're doing to make a difference in society. Today we have two very exciting companies. The first is Spae International. We have two guests with us in the studio, Sidney Higa and Paul Chapman. They're with this company and they're going to show their new product called Collab8. It's a tool that's supposed to change the way that we collaborate and work together in group environments. Pretty interesting stuff. Then later we're going to be joined by Mckay Davis and Sam Durham. They're with Bitcoin Hawaii. And those of you who haven't heard of Bitcoin yet, go ahead and Google it now. And that way, by the time we get to that part of the show, you'll know all about it. So, guys, thank you for joining us here in the studio today this Friday.
Thank you for having us.
So, you have a lot of equipment here.
Well,
it seems like you're prepared to show me something really amazing.
Basically, what we're trying to demonstrate here is a conference room or a classroom type environment. So the monitor behind us would be an example of either a projector or a large screen monitor in that environment. And of course, we've got a few devices that we're going to show you how we would collaborate together with them.
So we have a classroom, we set up a virtual classroom here.
Classroom or boardroom, conference room situation.
So tell me, what is this software? It looks pretty proprietary. It looks like a hardware and a software solution, this Collab8.
Yes. This collaborative tool allows you to hook up a MacBook Pro, Windows laptop, anything that's wired in, such as a Windows 7, 8 machine, a regular MacBook machine.
But what does it do? Okay, so we connect all these devices together. What happens?
Well, you're able to collaborate with one another. In other words, you can see what's going on, and then you can also allow other people to make changes to documents, spreadsheets, PowerPoint presentations, right on the fly.
Okay, so I notice you have an iPad here.
I have an iPad mini.
I have an iPad, you have a laptop,
yeah,
MacBook.
That's a MacBook.
And then this box, I'm guessing, is what everyone ties into, right?
And then, of course, we've got our iPhones.
And Paul. And Paul, of course, is our security, right?
I'm the window dressing.
He's going to make sure that we don't have any social engineering happening here to infiltrate your private network here, right?
So basically, what you have is a gateway. The gateway is a open platform to be used for Macs or Windows, as Sidney mentioned earlier. Right now, any boardroom, any classroom that you go to is wired. Everything is wired, and this is a wireless solution to free up your people. And when Sidney is talking about collaboration, everyone's been in a conference where you have to watch presentation after presentation and speaker after speaker, and they're all tied behind a pedestal or a podium. This will free technology and the people up to be able to move around the room, to interact, display wirelessly, and then allow those who are viewing it to participate as well.
Well, I got to be honest, I've given lots of presentations before, and so I've seen the kind of bugs that happen, when the PowerPoint presentation disappears. But luckily, I'm a pretty smart tech guy, and I can kind of get things up and running pretty quick. And I've learned sometimes you got to bring your own projector. So, this thing, so show me how I would collaborate with two devices. Let's use this fancy box.
So we can move your desktop is a little bit in front of the screen. So what's happening is Sid is displaying it from his MacBook Pro directly to our projecting screen here, right? Which happens to be a touch screen. So we can view his desktop. He can allow a whiteboard to pop up. Well, now he stopped displaying himself here. But if he goes on to into the features, which are right here, and he selects Start Collaboration or Whiteboard, I can, from the touch screen, begin to annotate the actual screen. I can add markups. I can
And he
add
can
notes.
see what you're doing?
Right.
And he can, well, his screen is still free, but now we're creating a new document. So in a room, usually you would have a big whiteboard that people would come up with different pens and such. Well, I'm working directly on the touch screen. If we were sharing the screen out to our individual devices, then you with your iPad or your iPhone or your Windows 7 machine would be able to collaborate with me on the screen. And everyone would be able to view it at the same time. So I'm just going to select the pen and I'm going to write my name on the screen, Collabate. And if you were connected, you would then have a different pen and you could write on it as well.
Oh, like with your iPad that you
iPad,
mentioned.
Correct.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So people are not just limited to sharing from a static position. Now everybody can collaborate together. The box also, if it's on the internet, you can connect in through Skype. You can connect in through links, WebEx and GoToMeeting. So you can bring in other people into this meeting here.
Well, you know, I've used stuff like this before with Google Apps. How is this different?
How is it different? It basically, when you have this sharing system or this collaborative environment going on, you can have 128 people connected to it. The software itself is not licensed on a per user basis. So you can have an unlimited number of users connect into the box, but only 128 at one particular time will be able to collaborate together.
Oh, and this is why it's good for schools.
Exactly.
You don't want to pay per student.
Per student, or even for boardrooms, because you're able to collaborate with, say you have an international company, you can bring your outside offices together and collaborate together via one of the meeting tools there.
Now, how many people are using this now, today?
It's brand new. It just hit the United States about 2 or 3 weeks ago. We are the first here in Hawaii to start carrying it. So here in Hawaii, we've basically only got one other unit that's going to be deployed, and I'm working on that right now to get it ready for deployment.
Wow. So we're going to start seeing this everywhere. Now, this seems to me like not a first generation product. What other products have been made by WOW Vision? I see that icon.
So WOW Vision is an organization that created something called the WOW Box. It's called VEOS. And that is more of a classroom environment device. It's being used by Stanford University. It's used by the Department of Defense, Homeland Security. It has a very good penetration in the U.S. government, and as well as schools. So that system, which this is based off of, would allow, say, a teacher in a BYOD environment or an environment where people bring their own devices, especially in a classroom. It's kind of changed the dynamic of how teachers interact with their students. What this allows, what the WOW Vision or the VEOS or even the Collabate allows is for a teacher could be at their desk and they can view each and every desktop that's in the classroom in real time. So as the students are working, as the students are browsing, as they're reading, whatever they're doing, the teacher can monitor each desktop. And with liability and such, the way that it is today, the only adult in the classroom, especially in K through 12, they need to be responsible for what people are viewing. Now, your web manager will keep them off of websites, but what they bring in, most times you can't stop. So this will give the teacher complete command and control of the classroom.
It sounds like another job for the teacher, practically.
Do you think?
Yeah. In addition to watching your kids, now watch what they're doing on all 30 screens at once.
Well, the system has a record feature, so it'll actually record your sessions. When it comes to teacher evaluations, when it comes to classroom evaluations and such, because it can be put behind the firewall within a network. Even a supervisor can log in and actually watch what's happening in the classroom. Because the system also has a audio in, they can actually listen to what's being taught, and they can actually see what's happening in the classroom. So it just adds a layer of accountability as well as just control.
Control. Okay.
Control, sorry.
So control. Now, and so this one is a little bit different in terms of you're looking at more of a business commercial training environment.
Right. With the VIOS, you can have 4 screens showing up on the monitor simultaneously. With this one, you can have 5. Both models are very interactive in that you can have any resolution of your screen, and it will automatically put that screen up. So in other words, like with this, with the MacBook Pro, we have what do you call that? The Retina display. So this is a very high resolution display here. Now I can take my little MacBook or my iPad and say, hey, I want to show my stuff up there, and of course, you're going to see that it has automatically adjusted itself and automatically adjusted the MacBook Pro to a different part of the screen. So right now with this particular unit, we could have 3 more units that are displaying simultaneously as to what's going on. So this is very useful in an environment where you have multiple speakers, such as you're doing a conference and you have maybe 5 or 6 speakers lined up all together. Instead of each one taking a USB and plugging it into somebody else's computer, because you don't know if there's any viruses on there, now you allow them to keep their own computer. They run this application through the Collab 8. When it's their turn, they just hit share my screen, and then they're up and running and showing their presentation.
Oh yeah, I see a cell phone has popped up.
Right.
So now you're viewing my multimedia on my phone. So we're all displaying something, and because it connects through Skype and such, we can bring someone in from the outside. They can be on the screen, we can be viewing them, and they will also see what's happening on the screen, so we can all work together. So that's my sushi.
Oh, I see some jungle gyms and
Jungle gym, anything, yeah.
Right.
So I stop my display, it automatically adjusts.
It also works with other products such as DVD players, Blu-ray, so you can have another input into it. So you can actually have 2 monitors going on at the same time. One monitor could be showing, say, a movie, the Blu-ray, and then the other one would still be in the collaboration mode, so you could collaborate with each other.
Well, this looks really cool stuff, but we have to go to a quick break for a moment. So, for those of you watching, stay tuned. We'll be right back after this break. We're joined by Sidney Higa and Paul Chapman. They're with Spae International with their new product, the Collab 8 collaboration tool. I'm Attila Suresh. Stay tuned.
Aloha, I'm Nicole Hori for ThinkTech. For nearly half a century, the Hawaii Foreign Trade Zone No. 9 has brought the benefits of the Foreign Trade Zone program to Hawaii businesses and entrepreneurs. DBET, the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism, operates Hawaii's Foreign Trade Zone program to encourage international business and economic development. The Foreign Trade Zone's mission is to increase the amount of international trading activity in Hawaii, thereby providing employment opportunities for the residents of our island state. For more information, see ftz9.org. I'm Nicole Hori. Mahalo.
We're back, we're live, and you're watching Think Tech. We're here with Sidney Higa and Paul Chapman. Their new product from Wow Vision called the Collab 8 is set to change the way that businesses train their employees and get big groups of people together. So, we've seen some really cool stuff with it, how we can share different desktops and, give each other different information and plop it all onto one screen. Pretty cool stuff. It seems like it can do a lot more than Google Docs.
Right.
And obviously this is meant more for a commercial application. Sounds like an expensive box. Is it? How's it priced?
It's about $6,000, and then we also have installation and training. So with the installation and training, it's about $6,500.
Oh, that's not too
And
bad.
it's not very expensive, considering that it's basically an unlimited license. So you can have as many users connect up to it without having to pay that licensing fee.
And of course, you can do multi-site, so you would have one of these in each of your sites. Is that how it works?
Well,
Can they
normally-
talk together?
Normally, you would have it in each of your either classroom or boardroom, so that those people that are there would collaborate with each other. However, you can interconnect them together via, like we said, via Skype and links and some of those other WebEx type tools.
So part of the reason that this is so attractive, Tila, is that this will allow, as opposed to doing a forklift upgrade in a classroom, new wiring, new projector, this will future-proof classrooms and conference rooms. Any IT manager that has had to do multiple rooms, it's a very expensive process to do a complete upgrade. This allows them to future-proof it. It works with, because it can connect through a VGA cable, it works with your old giant projector. It can connect through HDMI as well, so even your new devices will go in. The organization that we're working with is actually connecting these to smart boards. So those are beautiful smart boards and such, and this allows them to take it a step further. So file transfer, you mentioned Google Docs. If you've seen a presentation before, they typically will ask you for your email, and depending on what kind of a presentation it is, they got to email it out, and or they give you an a thumb drive, a USB drive. With this, any participant, very simply, will be able to transfer whatever the presentation is, make it available. Whoever wants it can download it and receives it wirelessly. So that's a big benefit.
Well, and the cross-platform portion of it is also nice. So that I'm guessing there's when you buy this box, you get some sort of upgrade package, so you continually get new firmware and software for the product.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
We do offer maintenance packages to upgrade the software and everything.
So the first version of the WOW Vision, which was the Veils, was a Linux box. These are Windows 7 boxes.
Oh,
so it makes it a lot easier.
Oh no!
It makes it a lot easier to integrate.
No, it's all going downhill now. Why did you tell me that? Well, I'm a Linux fan, but obviously most of the work that I do is with Windows. But still, I mean, the Linux. I use a Linux box to connect to I use a Windows box to connect to the Linux box. That's all I need it for.
Well, one of the advantages to having the Windows platform is you can actually load up applications onto this box here. And in the collaborate mode, where you actually have the other people who have connected into the session, they can all go up to, say if it's a Microsoft Word document that you're working on, you have pictures and everything, you have text. Anybody that's connected into it in the collaboration type mode, they can go in there, make a change to say the text, or say, okay, I wanna put a different picture inside of there, and they can drop a different picture. They can all save it, and then everybody that's been working on it can get a copy of that.
So say while I'm giving a presentation, if I said, well, I don't have the picture for this yet,
Right.
but by the time I get through these next two slides, my staff out there in the back, they're
Right.
gonna
They can
plop it
they
in
can-
there for me.
They can connect up to it, plop in those pictures. They could actually, you'll see it because it's gonna have a little arrow with their name on it, and they can just drop it inside of there, or change the text.
Or embarrass me with the wrong picture. That's definitely a temptation, that's for sure.
One of the things that the Collaborate was used for at a recent technology show in the mainland is connected to a projector, and it had instructions on how anybody can connect via their wireless device, and they created like a graffiti board. So people were just writing and created a large graffiti board right over the
Collaborate.
The Collaborate.
So if I were to come in with my iPad, here we go,
Yes,
I'll
sir.
grab it. So I would connect to your wireless and then download an app. Is that how it works?
Well, for the MacBook and a laptop, yes, you would connect directly to the box and you could download the app. For the iPad and the iPhone, you need to go to the App Store.
Okay. Either way, so you go to the App Store,
Right.
you pick up the app,
Right.
and then you
Right.
can start
Yep.
Yes.
doing what you need to do.
This generates, what's really nice, because it's wireless, you wouldn't want people from the outside catching your wireless room and just coming in and messing with your presentation or logging into it. So there's a randomly generated room code that every time it's booted up or every time there's a new session, there's a new room code that will show up, so that it's R7NN or 47NN right now, but it can randomly generate, so it protects you in that way as well.
Keeps hooligans from coming in and ruining my presentation.
Hooligans! That's right.
We're going old school here. Hooligans.
Hooligans, I like it.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys for coming by to share. This was very informative, and good luck on this platform. Are you guys going to be selling any of their future products of theirs, or is this the...
Definitely, yeah. We're the only authorized resellers here in Hawaii, so we're definitely going to be pushing this WOW Vision product line.
And strangely enough, there's not a lot of technology that does what this does, and so it does bits and pieces, but this has all of it. So we'd love the opportunity to demonstrate that for people.
The education aspect of it is really interesting. So we'll see. We certainly need that here in Hawaii. So thank you guys for coming by.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. And for those of you who are watching, stay tuned. We're going to be right back with Bitcoin. All right, we'll be right back after this break.
Aloha, I'm Jay Fidell of ThinkTech. We have some news for you. In addition to our ThinkTech TV show and our Asia in Review show on Olelo 54, as of January 1st, we're adding Community Matters to play also 2 hours a week. Check out thinktechhawaii.com for the specific times of each of these shows. We hope you enjoy all three. Mahalo, I'm Jay Fidell. Aloha, I'm Jay Fidell for ThinkTech. For nearly half a century, the Hawaiian Foreign Trade Zone, number 9, has brought the benefits of the Foreign Trade Zone program to Hawaii businesses and entrepreneurs. DBED, the Hawaii Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism, operates Hawaii's Foreign Trade Zone program. It does so to encourage international business and economic development. The Foreign Trade Zone mission is to increase the amount of international trading activity in Hawaii, thereby providing employment opportunities for the residents of our island state. For more information, see ftz9.org. I'm Jay Fidell of ThinkTech. Mahalo.
Aloha, I'm Nicole Hori for ThinkTech. For nearly half a century, the Hawaii Foreign Trade Zone number 9 has brought the benefits of the Foreign Trade Zone program to Hawaii businesses and entrepreneurs. DBET, the Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism, operates Hawaii's Foreign Trade Zone program to encourage international business and economic development. The Foreign Trade Zone's mission is to increase the amount of international trading activity in Hawaii, thereby providing employment opportunities for the residents of our island state. For more information, see ftz9.org. I'm Nicole Hori. Mahalo.
Aloha, I'm Jay Fidell. This is ThinkTech Hawaii, broadcasting live from the Pioneer Plaza in downtown Honolulu. We raise public awareness about tech, energy, and globalism in Hawaii. Technology is critical to our state. A vibrant tech sector will give us new prospects in the global marketplace and will offer great careers and make our economy more resilient. Streaming live on Ustream and Spreaker, ThinkTech allows its hosts and guests invaluable opportunities to report important events and discuss important questions, and to be heard here in Hawaii and around the world. You can find links to our live streams on thinktechhawaii.com or on our mobile website, m.thinktechhawaii.com. And you can see our archive on YouTube. It's all just a click away. We want to do whatever we can to keep Hawaii relevant, connected, and thriving in the complexity of the 21st century. We hope you will help us in those efforts. Tune in today. This is ThinkTech. I'm Jay Fidell.
Aloha, I'm Maria Kashem of ThinkTech Hawaii, and I want to tell you about our ThinkTech talk shows. If you didn't know it, ThinkTech streams video and audio for all of its shows live on the internet from 2 to 5 p.m. every weekday afternoon, and we replay them all night long on ustream.tv. Visit thinktechhawaii.com for our live stream and YouTube links. Raise your awareness on ThinkTech. I'm Maria Kashem, and I'll see you there.
We're back, and you're watching ThinkTech Friday. If you're watching this live, thank you for tuning in. You can always watch this show live from 4 to 5 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time at www.thinktechhawaii.com. And of course, if you like us, go ahead and like us on Facebook. Today, we continue with our series, Next Big Thing. And of course, the next big thing is Bitcoin. For those of you who tuned in at the beginning of the show and didn't know what Bitcoin was, hopefully you've had enough time to Google it and find out for yourself. Now, Bitcoin is big news. Richard Branson, he's the, as you know, the head of Virgin and the Virgin Empire with the Virgin Galactic lines, now has sold its first Bitcoin ticket to a lady of all things who lives here in Hawaii. So the guys here from Bitcoin Hawaii are shamelessly promoting Bitcoin, and they're here to tell us all about it. With us today, of course, is Mckay Davis and Sam Durham. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So, Bitcoin has made big news now that it's official and accepted as currency. It's over, what is it now, $600, $700?
It fluctuates. We don't like to talk about the price too much, but it's about $700 right now.
Big money. And
Yeah.
of course, what did it start at?
Under $1.
Wow.
Yeah,
That would have been a good investment.
The first Bitcoin pizza was sold for 10,000 Bitcoins, and it was a $25 pizza.
And so, how many Bitcoins do you have?
I'm not telling you.
More or less than 100?
Less.
Less than 100. How about you?
Same. I think most people that got into Bitcoin initially weren't saving them because it was an unknown technology. No one understood if this was going to go somewhere or if this was an experiment. And then pretty soon, as people started to see the price slowly rising and there was a couple booms and busts, they started to understand that there's an industry building around it, and that gave it its value. So a lot of people really didn't start saving them until later on, until they became much more expensive.
And of course, that lady who bought her first ticket, to go on a space flight, what was that, $250,000 worth?
I think so.
Which at the time was only about 250 Bitcoin, and she could have bought that for a lot less back in the day.
Yeah, probably like
Yeah, who knows?
$5.
Could be, yeah.
Wow.
There's a guy in Norway, I believe, that bought, $18 worth of Bitcoins and ended up buying a new apartment for over $700,000.
So what is the mission of Bitcoin?
Well, our mission at Bitcoin Hawaii is to bring public awareness to Bitcoin. It's an innovative new technology. It's not just a currency, it's a public ledger that all sorts of data can be encoded in. And so it's a medium of exchange that is secure. And we really want to bring the message to the public and let the public know that a lot of the hype and some of the bad things that have been said about Bitcoin, I think, are really kind of overblown.
Because what I understood about Bitcoin is that it was supposed to be like a leveling currency where anyone in the world can transmit money back and forth without dealing with currency exchange, without dealing with exorbitant fees, and it's a way that we can kind of move into the Star Trek age. Remember, like in Star Trek, I don't know if you
Everyone
guys
had
remember.
credits, right?
Yes,
Right.
credits.
So Bitcoin is really a new form of money, whereas most forms of currency in the past have been backed by something, backed by gold or backed by government. And Bitcoin is basically an open source project and doesn't have backing by a major government institution or a commodity. But its usefulness and its ability to do its job without having that backing gives it a leg up, because a lot of times when you have someone running a system, they charge you for it. So what we're looking at is, you being able to own your own money, you not having to worry about fees, there's no overdrafting, there's no, issues with someone stealing your credit card number, that kind of thing. Bitcoin's a lot more secure than the standard models, and it actually puts a lot of the security on the user. So, your money is only as secure as you're willing to be with it. And I think those kind of values evoke like a new form of being able to pay for things, where it's almost like if everyone held cash all the time. If the government didn't have their hands in it, or a bank wasn't able to affect your ability to spend your money. It's a lot of what Bitcoin kind of instills as an economical driver for this new virtual currency space.
But of course, the big barrier has been who's going to take my Bitcoin money, right? And that's now changing, right? And you mentioned the first purchase was a pizza.
Right, and that was more of just a friend between friend thing. And there's companies now like BitPay and Coinbase that are offering to provide that currency transition for you automatically. So you can set up a business where a business will actually take Bitcoin at the register, and going through Coinbase will automatically buy those coins and immediately put that equivalent amount of US dollars into your bank account.
But with a fluctuating currency, don't you have to then keep up with the cost there? So say, for instance, you want to sell a pizza.
Right.
That's not one Bitcoin. Is it a fraction of a Bitcoin?
Yes, you can transact down to a 10 millionth of a Bitcoin right now, which is a thousandth of a penny or something like that. But Coinbase and BitPay will automatically provide that exchange rate for you, and so you present the price in Bitcoin to the consumer, and then the business itself actually receives money in the bank account immediately, and so they're not exposed to those fluctuations in the currency exchange.
Oh, interesting.
One thing we commonly use with Bitcoin is you can instantly convert. So when you're looking at how much Bitcoin you have, you can press a button on your app and it'll tell you how much that's worth based on the current exchange rate. So if you want to pay someone in Bitcoin, you can do that. Or you can say, I owe you $20, just normal USD, and you can just convert $20 into Bitcoin and send it that way. So it removes some of the hassle of, well, I don't know if that's 0.1 or 0.15, and you don't have to do the math. It makes it a little easier.
Now, is that attractive to a merchant? Because, for example, if I'm a merchant and I take a credit card transaction, I'm paying 2.5%, with Square and any of these other. So, am I paying a lower transaction fee for this?
Currently, the transaction fees for Bitcoin for every transaction is around 20 cents.
20 cents.
Regardless of the amount. So you can do a $10,000 transaction, and the transaction fee will be about 20 cents.
One thing we like about Bitcoin is the ability to set up your own, program. So if you want to add fees on top as a business, you can do that. And if you want to keep it basically feeless, you're allowed to do that as well. And what we've seen more and more with the Bitcoin space is people are opting to have lower fees than credit cards and PayPal. And it's really kind of a chink in, credit card system and PayPal's armor is they have to charge this, close to 3% on every transaction to be able to make their money and support their system. But since Bitcoin is a little more streamlined, there's no major company running it, there's not a lot of overhead, they have the ability to charge far less. And companies like BitPay and Coinbase actually have options for merchants to not get charged anything to accept Bitcoins. The only thing they're paying is that one transaction fee of 20 cents per transaction.
Which is good if you're not selling a cup of coffee. If you're selling a pizza, $10 transaction, that's pretty good.
Right, and
okay.
one thing we discussed too is the transaction fee is actually based on a mathematical scale. So as Bitcoin becomes more expensive, the transaction fee scales up with it. And no one expected it to be doing as well as it is now. So the fee became much more than was original. I think it was between 4 and 6 cents we were looking at originally. And they're looking at scaling it back now to somewhere around there.
They're working on automatically adjusting that fee based on a sliding scale of the current exchange rate and the adoption of Bitcoin. So while 20 cents sounds kind of high right now, that will go down in the future. And you actually do have the option to not pay a fee, and your transaction will just take a bit longer to go through the network.
Have any major card processors like Card Services or Intuit, have they picked up Bitcoin?
No, they pretty much stayed out of the game at this point.
I think part of that is it's competition, and to integrate it could possibly see revenue taken away from their other fields. But also, it's a real sticky situation with regulations and also taxes right now. So, as much as Bitcoin is being accepted by major businesses, it's receiving venture capital funding, we're seeing that a lot of businesses are a little wary of it still because they've had regulation come out, but they're still not quite sure how they want to treat it with taxes. So people are kind of, keeping an eye on it and waiting to let it develop. But realistically, right now, it's still in its early days, and that's one of the reasons that we're here and we like to talk about it, is we want to push the adoption, we want to get the regulations set, we want to work with lawmakers and people within the business community to find out what works for everyone and show them that there is a benefit to this system. It saves everyone money, it's more secure, it saves time, and some of those features are something that could be implemented not just in Hawaii, but across the globe.
Well, now, tell me about Bitcoin banks. It's a whole thing.
What have you heard about that?
Well, I do know that recently, and I'm sure you know of this also, in November, $1.4 million was stolen from a Bitcoin bank.
Right, you're probably referring to the Inputs.io.
Yes.
Right, yeah, down in Australia. So that's the thing that's beautiful about Bitcoin is you can be your own bank. You don't need to trust a third party to hold your money for you. And that's also kind of the downfall, or one of the problems with Bitcoin right now, is if you do trust that third party to hold your Bitcoin and they run off with the money, is there's no insurance upon it right now. And there's no really repercussions. So Inputs.io was based out of Australia, and there was a lot of people in the US that lost a lot of money in that, and they really have no jurisdiction to go after this person. So the thing that Bitcoin does provide you, though, is that you can control your coins. You hold the keys to spending those coins, and nobody can come along and take those from you. So that's kind of really the beauty of Bitcoin, is it puts the power of the bank back in your hands.
Well, and I remember even with that article I was reading about, they put their servers on Linode, like a shared hosting environment or something.
Right,
I mean,
right.
bad choices.
Right,
Bad
right.
choices all around there.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say there's been a number of large Bitcoin heists, essentially, and the thing that I really want to stress about that is all of those heists have really been either physical access to the machine, or backdoors, keyloggers, viruses, things like that. It's not been a problem with the Bitcoin protocol itself. The Bitcoin protocol is highly secure and has been reviewed by some of the best security researchers in the world. And they've all pretty much come to the consensus that it's really a tour de force of high security cryptography.
And it's useful, especially if you can go and pay for it. So where can I go? Say I have a Bitcoin, my $600 Bitcoin. Where can I go in Hawaii and spend it?
Right now, the easiest way to spend it really is to go online, and you could purchase, say, a gift card for CVS or Longs, as it's called around here, through gift.com, gyft.com. gyft.com sells gift cards for Bitcoin, and they give actually a 3% rebate as well. So it's a pretty good deal. And I can do that with an app on my phone and go into Longs and scan my phone, and it's a gift card right there at the register.
GYFT. I always like it when they do that. It reminds me, I was buying dog treats for my dog, and it was like wings, WYNGs, and I was like, what is this? It's like processed, and I'm like, I don't want to hear it.
Well, that's because gift.com was taken, and so they had to change one letter, right?
$100,000 cyber squatter sitting on it, yeah.
And that's one thing we really hope to change, is to really bring about the adoption of Bitcoin to local merchants. So if anybody's very interested in taking Bitcoin, we encourage them to go to bitcoinhawaii.com and talk to us.
So there's not one local merchant that takes Bitcoin right now?
There are two, actually. The one that I'm most familiar with is Tealit, and it's actually a friend of mine out of UH who started a business, and she works with tea growers in Asia and brings the tea over to the US, and they try to keep out the middleman as far as like someone who's buying in bulk and then reselling back into the States. They've done really well with Bitcoin. They've actually been kind of a poster child for a lot of people who want to accept Bitcoin. In accepting it, they've had a couple sales that they've run, and there was a big event called Bitcoin Black Friday to push people to spend their Bitcoins. And they were one of the higher rated merchants among everyone in the group as far as their ability to use social media and marketing and really put themselves out there. So besides them, is it Hawaii Tours?
Yes, Hawaii Tours also accepts Bitcoin. We don't know their success with it so far, though.
Oh, sounds interesting. I want to talk about that a little bit more, but we have to go to a quick break. So, those of you watching, stand by. We'll be right back after this break.
We want to thank our underwriters.
Hawaiian Electric Company and its affiliates Maui Electric on Maui and Hawaii Electric Light Company on Hawaii Island are deeply committed to the communities they serve.
Galen Ho is a senior executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company.
The High Tech Development Corporation, the state's leading technology agency, attached to the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism.
Castle and Cook Hawaii, with a time-honored legacy that spans more than 160 years and revolves around its mission of investing in Hawaii, creating communities, and providing for the needs of our state.
Hawaii Gas, formerly the Gas Company, a proponent of the Liquefied Natural Gas Initiative, helping Hawaii achieve its transition to clean energy and a better energy future.
Collateral Analytics, a Hawaii-based tech company empowering the real estate industry with greater and faster access to the tools and data they need to make better informed property investment decisions.
I'm Nicole Hori. Thanks so much for joining us on ThinkTech.
I'm Maria Kashem. See you next time.
We're back, and you're watching Think Tech Friday. For those of you tuned in live, thank you for tuning in. You can always tune in live on Friday, 4 to 5 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time at thinktechhawaii.com. With us today is Mckay Davis and Sam Durham. They're with Bitcoin Hawaii, raising awareness about their new form of currency that's sweeping the globe and into outer space, actually. So, before we get too far, I saw you brought out your phone, and I'm guessing you're going to do a Bitcoin transaction there. But why don't you show me how it works?
So we both have Android phones, and Android currently is a little more open platform for allowing developers to use Bitcoin. So one thing that's great about Bitcoin is that the original code and all the code that people have been writing since is all open source. So it kind of goes off the whole Linux philosophy of open source. And so it allows for people to audit and look at the code to make sure, this is really, truly not going to take my money, so to say.
That's one way of looking at it. I know with Google Wallet, they had a lot of problems though with Android on the flip side, and they had to put additional hardware inside for the cryptography portion because they were worried about that.
Right.
So
Was that because of NFC?
no, not the NFC.
Okay.
It was because of the actual transmission. So they had to put an additional third-party chip inside. So I think the S4 has it for Google Wallet and a few others.
Well, we'll show you with this transaction. We like Bitcoin from a security standpoint. I'm a little wary of NFC because if someone walks by, they could spoof a transaction or pick up a code. So Bitcoin currently is using QR codes, but there's actually some really interesting other implementations as well of ways to do a transaction that's pretty secure. But we'll show you the QR code method.
We'll show the camera too. So,
I'm just going to start by, this is my public address, so anyone can send money to this, and it's safe to show on camera and to let everyone, out in the public see it, because all they can do is give money to me. It's much like
perfect.
the address to a P.O. box. Anyone can send something to it, but not everyone can pull something out of it.
So you're going to now use your camera.
I'm going to use my camera. It will scan that QR code.
Okay, I see it.
And it has his address there now on my screen, and I can say I want to pay. And
That looks like
I can
gibberish
type
there.
in either Bitcoins or I can type in US dollars, and it automatically. This is his address right there. That's the
$20.
public.
All right.
So I will send $20.
It's like 3 cups of coffee.
I'm not sure if I have $20. I'll send.
$2.
Oh,
I'll send 10.
downgraded.
Oh,
$10.
well, okay. Maybe I don't have $20 in there. Yeah. Okay. So I'll send $2.
$2. All right. Send.
And then.
Does he get like a jingle and like a
So
explosion,
it already came
fireworks?
up. So you can see in my notifications, it says received. It shows me the amount of Bitcoin. Usually on the network, it takes 2 to 4 seconds to show up. One thing we like about that is, there's some online payment systems that might take a couple minutes, or they initially will take a day to put the money into an account. The great thing about Bitcoin is it's so quick that once you see this on your phone received, you have the money and you can go ahead and spend it, soon thereafter. Versus PayPal, you actually don't get the money in your bank account until 3 or 4 days later.
How do I take that $2 and turn it into cash, like touch?
Our favorite is a site called Coinbase. They're a bit like a mashup of an exchange and a bank. And their whole service is you can buy Bitcoin with cash, well, in this case, your linked bank account, or you can sell Bitcoin with your linked bank account. So they come up with kind of a modified exchange rate. They add a couple percentage points on top as their fee, and that allows you to link your bank account and either buy a Bitcoin or sell a Bitcoin, and the money shows up in your account within a couple days. So a lot of Bitcoin enthusiasts, we don't really sell too many Bitcoins for cash because we'd rather have more Bitcoins, but it's a good service. And one thing that a lot of us use is if we're going to spend our Bitcoins on something, we want to always keep the same amount of coins. We'll actually spend, a Bitcoin on, let's say I got a transmission for my car, then I'll immediately go to Coinbase and spend $600 out of my bank account from my paycheck and buy that Bitcoin back to add to my, my savings. And in that way, you can always keep the same amount, and you don't have to dip into your Bitcoin savings and worry about it later.
And we're also perpetuating the Bitcoin economy. A lot of the friction really comes about converting back and forth between local currencies and Bitcoin right now. But Coinbase is a pretty solid U.S. company to start up in California, backed by Google Ventures, I believe. And it's one of the first big successes in the Bitcoin world right now. And I believe they have they just passed up 700,000 users.
Wow. All right. And it sounds like this is a good way for banks to actually get that cash. Because I mean, when it comes right down to it, yeah, it's great. I'm sorry, I didn't say banks. I meant businesses. A business needs to pay taxes, and the business needs to pay employees. And taking Bitcoin money in is great, but you got to take that and put it back into the business. So this it sounds like Coinbase is the way to do it.
Yeah, and the other popular one we had mentioned earlier was BitPay, and their kind of take on it is to not expose any risk to the merchant. So what they do is allow the instant conversion of Bitcoin to cash, and that ends up in your bank account. So instead of having to receive a Bitcoin and then send it to Coinbase and convert it, BitPay is like a third-party processor, and as soon as the Bitcoin is sent to a business address, it gets swapped into cash for that amount. There's never any volatility issue, and from there, they receive the money as cash, and they don't have to worry about holding on to the Bitcoins.
Wow, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're looking for adoption.
Yeah, and it's good just for early adopters to have that mentality of it works just like PayPal. They're not exposed to the risk, and on top of that, they can accept Bitcoins and still take in that, that money, because right now there's a big vacuum in the Bitcoin economy. A lot of people want to spend their Bitcoins. There's not a whole lot for sale. So that's one of the reasons we think Hawaii is a pretty good incubator for this technology, is people have the ability to accept Bitcoins here, and eventually we want to have a lot of people spending them, and it's a global currency. So if you have a website, or if you export, or if you have tourists coming in, they have the ability to buy Bitcoins, come here and spend them locally.
Or donate them maybe to ThinkTech. Wouldn't that be nice?
And actually, one of the biggest uses early on for Bitcoin was donations. And it's interesting because it allows you to anonymously donate, which in the past has been a little more difficult. So you can see if you wanted to donate to a political party, but you didn't want to be associated with them on paper. Let's say, I'm a closet Republican and my Democrat parents don't want to know. So I can donate my money without having it show up on a credit card statement, without having it show up, in any kind of paper trail. And in that case, it gives you a little more freedom to do what you want and to be able to put yourself out there while still having anonymity.
And that brings up that the FEC, the Federal Election Commission, is actually currently deadlocked on whether to accept Bitcoins for political donations. So they are seriously considering allowing for Bitcoins for political donations. And the rules that they're looking at is that the campaigns must immediately convert those back into dollars and not spend them as Bitcoins. But it's a pretty big step to have the FEC say that, yeah, we are seriously considering allowing this.
Yeah, I think it'd be great. Well, not to mention you have the big names behind it. Now, I know that there are other Bitcoin alternatives out there.
There are.
I just Googled it and like 50 came up.
There's been a number of people who have taken the open source Bitcoin protocol and they've tweaked a few parameters and they've renamed them to things like Litecoin and Purecoin and Primecoin. And some of them have some very novel concepts behind them. Namecoin is allowing for a distributed kind of a domain name server registry that is taking the control away from the current system. But Bitcoin really is kind of the innovator, and they're the ones with the market right now. Litecoin is definitely number 2.
Litecoin.
Litecoin, yes. Basically is Bitcoin with faster confirmation times and more coins, 4 times the amount.
So less than 4 seconds.
Well, it gets a little complicated. When you get into the nuts and bolts, you start to see that it's not just an instant transfer. There's a whole network that's confirming things, and this kind of brings up another point I think you wanted to discuss is mining. So you have a bunch of people in the Bitcoin network running machines, and they're basically processing these transactions. And everything is cryptographically secured in Bitcoin. So when you do a transaction, someone has to actually go in there and crunch the numbers and make sure that, yes, he has $2 to send to me, and then they have to modify our balances. So the miners are actually receiving the fee, and they're receiving some Bitcoins for their services. And they're actually really the only back end to the system. They're the people running the network, if you will.
They secure the network. The miners provide the security.
So you're crowdsourcing the actual data centers that Citibank had to build for their own card processing and Wells Fargo and so on.
Right.
Exactly.
Like crowdsourcing the whole thing. Wow.
And the miners who discover the blocks that are accepted are rewarded with fresh Bitcoins. And so that's how new Bitcoins are being created. Currently, there are a little over 12 million Bitcoins in existence, and the final number will be 21 million by design. And the last Bitcoin is scheduled to be mined approximately the year 2140. So we've got about another 120 something years for those final 9 million coins to be created.
To be created.
Yes, or to be mined, essentially, to be given to miners, which are validating the network.
They're valid. Okay, well, that's too bad that we're not going to have too many Bitcoins out there.
Well, they can be divided down to 10 millionth of a coin, and that can be extended in the future. So that's one reason why the value of Bitcoin has been going up, though, is because there is there's a fixed supply of Bitcoin, and so the more people that get into it, the value goes up more.
Well, it seems like I got to go out and either start accepting or start buying some Bitcoin. So
It's a good time to start taking donations for sure.
oh, that's a great idea. Well, we'll think about that here on ThinkTech because we like money. As I'm sure.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't, exactly. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us here on the show and for sharing about Bitcoin. And before we close out the broadcast, there are two upcoming events. There's on January 3rd. There's the Blockchain Bash? Is that what it is?
Yes, Bitcoin is turning 5. It's 5 years old now, and so January 3rd, we're celebrating the 5th birthday of Bitcoin at the Box Jelly.
At the Box Jelly, and then January 14th, you have a Bitcoin 101 class at the Box Jelly also, right?
Yes, Sam and I will be giving a presentation on all things Bitcoin, a more in-depth introduction behind the technology.
And how you can be a miner, right?
We don't touch on that too much because it's kind of out of the everyman's reach at this point. It used to be a couple years ago, but
It's much like mining gold. If you have $20 million in a pit somewhere with a lot of gold in it, you could probably make it work. But for the layman nowadays, it's more beneficial just to buy Bitcoins.
Oh, well, that's too bad. I wanted to be a miner. All right, thanks, guys. We appreciate it so much. And, of course, if you miss any part of this show, feel free to hit rewind on your player there. And, of course, be sure to tune in next Friday when we're going to do some more Think Tech. And tune in throughout the week. We have lots of live shows here on ThinkTechHawaii.com. I'm your host, Attila Saras. And, be good, and we'll see you next week. Aloha.